All right, so today we're diving deep into a galaxy far, far away, right? Star Wars, Episode V, The Empire Strikes Back. We're going way beyond just like the basic plot everyone knows. We're really unpacking what makes this film such a classic.
The Empire Strikes Back just takes everything from A New Hope and, well, elevates it. It's darker, for sure, more complex. Emotionally, it hits you harder.
Yeah, exactly. And our sources for this dive really get into that, like how the tone shifts and the whole Star Wars world just explodes outward. New
Wow.
planets, creatures, characters like Yoda, Lando, they add so much.
And instantly became iconic, too.
Oh, absolutely. But, okay, got to do a quick recap, right, for anyone needs it.
Yeah.
So, 3 years after blowing up the Death Star, our rebels are hiding out on Hoth, ice planet. But the Empire's hunting them down, Gator leading the charge.
And it's brutal. That attack on Hoth is nothing like those, almost elegant lightsaber fights from the first movie. The Empire shows up with those massive AT-8 walkers, just terrifying firepower. Rebels are outmatched. You really see how high the stakes are.
Yeah, this isn't just some fun adventure anymore. It's serious. And while the rebels are running, Luke's off on his own mission, following Obi-Wan's Force ghost, right, to Dagobah, to train with Yoda.
Which, gotta say, genius move. Yoda is unlike anything we've seen before in Star Wars. This tiny, ancient being, but so wise, talking in riddles, but also playful, almost mischievous. He's like the mystical side of the Force made real.
For sure. And it's not just about using a lightsaber. Luke's learning patience, discipline, facing his fears. Yoda's teaching him to be a Jedi, inside and out.
Meanwhile, Han, Leia, Chewie, and 3PO are trying to outrun the Empire on the Falcon. Asteroids, space slugs. Talk about stressful.
Intense is the word. And, under all that pressure, that's where you see Han and Leia's relationship really develop. All that banter, the chemistry between them, it's obvious something's there.
It makes the whole movie more emotionally complex, It's not just about this grand space opera anymore. There's real feeling there.
Totally. In the beginning, it's all like playful arguing. But by the end, they care about each other. It's a huge shift. Then we get to Cloud City, right? Amazing. That floating city, and Lando's in charge.
Lando. Smooth, charming, and then he betrays them, hands Han and Leia right over to Vader to keep his city safe. It just makes you question everything. Loyalty, trust. What do you do when faced with that kind of power?
Right, but even when he does it, you can tell Lando's conflicted. He cares about them, but he's trying to protect his people. It makes him such a fascinating character, not just a simple bad guy.
Exactly. And that's what makes The Empire Strikes Back better than just good guys versus bad guys. Everyone's making these tough choices, and there are consequences. It feels real,
Okay, but we have to talk about that lightsaber duel. Luke and Vader. Even after all these years, it's still so intense.
It's iconic for sure, that clash, Luke, raw and untrained, against Vader, who's just precise. But it's also a battle for Luke's soul. Can he resist the dark side? And then, that reveal. I'm your father? Mind-blowing.
It's become such a famous line, but it's more than that. Luke's whole world is shattered.
Yeah.
He has to face the fact that maybe the darkness he's fighting is part of him.
And that's what sets this movie apart. It's not just about defeating evil. It's about figuring out who you are, what your destiny is.
Yeah.
It's more than just a shocker, that I am your father line. It's like suddenly we have to rethink the whole light versus dark thing. And The Empire Strikes Back is great at weaving those big ideas right into the action.
Yeah, it makes you wonder, is it that simple? Good versus evil. The source material we're looking at, it really goes into how the movie explores that internal struggle, not just for Luke, but for other characters too.
Exactly. Like, take that cave scene on Dagobah. Luke faces this vision of Vader, and when the mask comes off, it's Luke's own face.
Whoa.
Oh.
Talk about scary. It's like the movie's telling us, hey, that darkness you're fighting, it's not just out there, it's in you too. Heavy stuff, especially if you're trying to be a Jedi.
No kidding. And it's not just Luke, right? Even Lando, the way he betrays them, even though he comes around in the end, it shows how easy it is to slip into that darkness, even if you start with good intentions. Like, he compromises everything, betrays his friends, just to save his city. Not an easy call to make.
It makes you think about the choices we make in our own lives.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's no good answer, and the movie doesn't shy away from that. That's part of what makes it so interesting. But even with all that darkness, there's still hope.
Oh, totally. The Empire Strikes Back might be darker than A New Hope, but it never loses that core Star Wars spirit, that idea of fighting for what you believe in, even when things are bad.
Yeah, you see it in Luke, pushing himself to finish his training even after Yoda warns him it's dangerous. And Leia refusing to give up hope when they're trapped. And Han, even though he likes to act tough, He puts himself on the line for the people he cares about.
Speaking of Han, his whole story is about facing those softer parts of himself, learning to care more about others than just staying alive. At the beginning, he's all about saving his own skin. By the end, he'd do anything for Leia. Classic character development right there.
For sure. And it ties into that whole theme of identity that runs through the movie. Luke and his parents, Leia stepping up as a leader, even Han figuring out where he belongs in this whole rebellion. They're all trying to figure out who they are in the middle of all this crazy stuff.
And that chaos is mirrored visually, too. You know, you've got Hoth, all ice and emptiness. It's like the harsh reality of fighting this war. Then you've got Dagobah, all green and alive. That's like the spiritual side, connecting to the Force.
And Cloud City. Don't forget Cloud City. All shiny and advanced up in the clouds. But it's a trap, too. Shows how tempting power can be, how easy it is to compromise.
Exactly. The movie's telling us, hey, not everything is what it seems. Those visuals make you think on a deeper level.
Okay, gotta talk about the impact this film had. It wasn't just a hit. It changed sci-fi forever.
Yeah.
Left a mark on pop culture that's still here.
Seriously, it's everywhere you look. May the Force be with you, I am your father. Those are just part of how we talk now. Darth Vader, Yoda.
Yeah.
Everyone knows them, even if they haven't seen the movies. And it's influenced so much. Other movie shows, games, books.
It's wild to think that a film from 1980 is still so relevant. But it makes sense, because The Empire Strikes Back is about things we all feel. Hope, standing up for what's right, fighting back even when it seems impossible.
You nailed it. It's a human story at its core, reminds us that even when things are dark, there's always hope. Always a reason to keep fighting for what matters.
Okay, so we've covered the story, characters, themes, the impact. But what did the critics think? Back in 1980, did they see this masterpiece the way we do?
Well, that's where things get interesting. Box office, it was a smash hit right away. But critics, the first reactions were kind of mixed, actually. Some of them found the darker tone, the way it ends, without everything being resolved. It threw them off. A New Hope was simpler, you know? This was different.
Huh. Yeah, I guess that makes sense. Looking back now, it's hard to imagine The Empire Strikes Back not being praised as a masterpiece. But I guess things were different back then.
Perspectives change, you know? What might have seemed weird or even a bad thing at the time. Now we see it as part of what makes the film so great. It took people a bit to really get what The Empire Strikes Back was doing, all those layers.
So when did things change? When did the critics come around and start seeing it as the classic we know it is now?
Well, it didn't take too long. You know, people had time to think about it, watch it again. They started to see the brilliance. All the things that confused some folks at first, those became the things that made it a masterpiece.
Like, specifically, what were the critics praising once they came around?
The directing, for one, Irvin Kershner, he just nailed it. Those massive space battles, and then these really quiet, personal moments with the characters. He balanced it perfectly, brought this emotional depth that wasn't really there in A New Hope in the same way.
And the actors were fantastic, too, right?
Absolutely. Mark Hamill, Harrison Ford, Carrie Fisher, all of them. They gave performances that people still talk about today. They brought so much to those roles. It's hard to imagine anyone else as Luke, Han, or Leia now.
I read somewhere that the visual effects were, like, revolutionary back then. Critics were blown away.
Yeah, they were way ahead of their time. Bryan Johnson and his team, they created these worlds that felt real. The Battle of Hoth with those AT-ATs, the asteroid field, that lightsaber fight in Cloud City. It was all visually stunning, changed how movies were made.
All that praise must have led to some awards, right?
Oh, yeah. 2 Oscars, Best Sound and a Special Achievement Award for the visual effects. Plus, it was nominated for Best Art Direction and Best Original Score. The whole film was just incredibly well made.
So, even if it took a little while, The Empire Strikes Back got the recognition it deserved. And it seems like it just keeps getting more popular as time goes on.
That's what's amazing about it. It's a legacy that keeps growing. Consistently ranked as one of the best movies ever made. Not just sci-fi, any genre. And that's because it has those themes that everyone connects with, characters we love, and a story that just stays with you.
It's the kind of movie you think about long after it's over. You talk about it with your friends, you want to watch it again and again, and you always notice something new.
Right. It rewards you for watching it multiple times. So many layers to uncover. The story, the characters, the visuals, the deeper meaning, it's all there.
You know, as we wrap up our deep dives into The Empire Strikes Back, I think it's important to remember that at its core, this is a movie about choices.
Yeah, the choices we make, they say a lot about who we are, what we believe in, what we leave behind. Just like Luke, Han, Leia, even Darth Vader. Their choices shape their destinies. We all face choices every day that shape our lives and the world around us.
So next time you watch The Empire Strikes Back, heck, next time you watch any movie, really pay attention to those choices the characters are making. Put yourself in their shoes. What would you have done? How do those choices connect to our own lives, our own struggles?
And remember, even when things are tough, even when it seems like darkness is winning, there's always hope, a chance to make things right, and always, always the power to choose our own path. Just look in that galaxy far, far away.
Wow, that was quite the journey. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into The Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah.
May the Force be with you always.